Welcome to the DesignRush podcast. I'm your host, Kia Johnson. Today we're focusing on LinkedIn, the go-to platform for B2B marketing and professional growth. With 89% of marketers relying on LinkedIn for lead generation, the question isn't just how to use it, it's how to stand out. So, how do consulting professionals position themselves as thought leaders in a crowded space and build trust with their audience? Our guest, Nemanja Živković, CEO of Funky Marketing, has worked with countless B2B companies to help them shape their strategies and create meaningful connections on LinkedIn. Nemanja says, figure out the basics, know what you stand for and what you offer.
You should figure out the basics, meaning you should know what do you stand for, what do you offer, meaning clarity and authenticity, right? Because if we're talking about thought leadership, the thing that we often forget about is, do we actually have original thoughts? Do we have a new perspective on an existing problem?
For Nemanja, LinkedIn is more than just a social platform. It's a place to share insights, ask the right questions, and build credibility through thoughtful conversations.
There is one thing that people often forget. It's the mission of LinkedIn, and says connecting the world's professional and make them more productive and successful. So connecting and making them more productive and successful, meaning education and meaning providing opportunities for other people.
In the world of B2B consulting, trust and connection aren't just important, they're essential. Building relationships with peers and industry professionals is often the key to opening doors and creating lasting opportunities.
In B2B, especially in consulting business, you will get the most of the business from people who recommend, which means that you need to be connected with your peers. You need to help them get better, share with them things that you did well.
In today's episode, Nemanja will share his perspective on how professionals can strengthen their presence on LinkedIn and use it to grow their influence and build trust with key audiences. If you want to improve your LinkedIn strategy and connect with the right people, stay tuned. Got a story to share? Send it over to spotlight@designrush.com. We'd love to hear it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more expert insights. Let's get started. Hi Nemanja, welcome to the DesignRush podcast. It's so wonderful having you here with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here and talking about the topics that I love. So that's always a pleasure.
Wonderful. Now, Nemanja, LinkedIn has become the go-to platform for B2B marketing, with 89% of marketers using it for lead generation. Now, what are the first steps consulting professionals should take to position themselves as thought leaders on LinkedIn, especially going into the year 2025?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I'm always saying, you should figure out the basics, meaning you should know what do you stand for, what do you offer, meaning clarity and authenticity, right? Because if we're talking about thought leadership, the thing that we often forget about is, do we actually have original thoughts? Do we have a new perspective on an existing problem, right? We need to have that first, and then, when we are clear about what is the thing that we are offer, who are we offering to, and how can we, what's our unique advantage, meaning authenticity, then we can go and execute. So starting with a clear idea of who are we speaking to, what do we bring to the table, and then basically, using content as, I like to say it, as a form of conversation, right? Not just broadcasting messages to the masses, but sharing insights that invite dialogue, like questions, industry challenges, some predictions. So basically something that makes people want to engage, and then, hearing their opinions. There is one thing that people often forget. It's the mission of LinkedIn, and says connecting the world's professional and make them more productive and successful. So connecting and making them more productive and successful, meaning education and meaning providing opportunities for other people. Next is obviously figuring out how to optimize your profile. Does the headline says exactly the message that you need them to say? Like, I don't know, CEO of Funky Marketing in my case, it should maybe be like, helping B2B tech companies, I don't know, unlock growth on LinkedIn or something like that. And then using all the LinkedIn features and following how the algorithm works, because there are specific nuances to each platform that goes into that.
So true, and 100%. I fully get what you're saying, and I do appreciate that you also kind of touched on authenticity as well. But yeah, so now Nemanja, you spoke a little bit about the LinkedIn profile, right? So from your experience, how important is personal branding for B2B consultants that are looking to land major clients on LinkedIn? And what would you say are these sort of key elements of a compelling LinkedIn profile that can actually drive trust and also drive visibility as well? I know you kind of touched on that, but if you can unpack that for us a little bit more, that would be great.
Yeah, it's essential. Personal branding, it's essential because, no matter, in this case, as a consultant, you are selling your services, meaning you're selling yourself. If you have the authority, if you have the reputation, if you have the knowledge, if other side is acknowledging that, then you will be able to sell, right? Because in B2B, we don't actually sell, we solve problems. And to be able to, for somebody to allow you to solve their problems, especially if we are talking about mid-sized businesses, enterprises, complex companies with complex products. Well, basically, there's a thing over there, and it's called trust. And I always say LinkedIn is the number one platform for creating trust. And personal branding, I like to say, is two definitions. First one, it makes you the CEO of the brand called you. Another one is basically it's your reputation digitalized. So there are a lot of folks that have reputation, especially if we are talking about consultants. So there are people who have already years in businesses as a part of different companies or as consultants, and but a lot of them didn't digitalize that experience and reputation, so they are not known in the digital space. And we are living in global times, so that becomes extremely important, because like you first need for somebody to open your door offline, they need to know who is knocking on the door, right? That's extremely important. And then if we take it to LinkedIn, then we have obviously I'm talking about, like, as a company you have a website. As a consultant or somebody who is building a personal brand, you have LinkedIn profile, and LinkedIn profile is your landing page or your sales page when you are trying to sell your services, yourself, your education, the way you solve the problem and create trust.
That's so true. And consistency, I guess, is key. Not I guess, because it actually is key. But I do think that many consultants actually struggle to keep up with posting regularly on LinkedIn. So in your opinion, how often do you think consultants should post? And then what kind of content should they focus on to actually maximize that engagement, when they do post, and also client acquisition in 2025? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say engagement is more important than actually posting. But everything that we do, every like, every comment, every post, it all counts as a post, right, on LinkedIn, because everything is visible and we can see, if we go to somebody's profile, we can see all the activities, even the reactions. So everything counts. But here, what counts the most is being persistent with giving value, with empowering others. Meaning we can do it in a form of a post, we can do it in a form of comments, and then basically seeing if that comment gets traction, we basically make a post out of it, or with a different kind of things. What I always say to the people, start with three types of posts to make it more simple. It's past, present, and the future. What I want to say by that, past is all your previous experiences, who you work with, testimonials, everything that you built so far. Presence is what you do day to day, right? And the future is basically your point of view, or something that's controversial, something that will polarize people. There's always this thing that we need to think about. It is that 10% of our audience always need to disagree with us to make it engaging and to make them move at least just a little bit right out of the place when they are feeling safe and comfortable. So, and when you look at it, it's 3 posts per week. If you look at it per month, it's like 12 posts per month. In 3 months, it's 36 posts. So it's not that much, right? But if you start with that, schedule them and then start engaging, then basically you are getting yourself out of the nervousness or the state called what should I post tomorrow, right? Because when you have that, you basically don't post because you stop posting. And you know, so I always say start with as much posts as you can per week, but make it permanent. So if it's 1, then make it a good one. Then go up to 2, up to 3, up to 4, no matter how it is. I would like to say go in a form that up until the moment where you can actually post every day. But those posts needs to be very different, needs to tell your story in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different types of content. So in a way, they need to be educational and insightful, meaning, you know, sharing tips, insights, unique perspective on the industry trends, basically like giving something to the audience that they can use immediately. And it's not how to, it's how it needs to go from yourself. Then it's storytelling, of course, you know, personal stories, client success stories, lessons learned, you know, something that people will relate to, something that they will remember. And also, you know, from time to time, you also need to sell. A lot of people forget that, focus only on education, or on the other side, focus on sales. But you know, you need to kind of talk about what you are actually selling, about your services, how you're solving specific problems, and those kind of things. So it's important to think forward, have the full vision of what you want to achieve, answer some of the questions, especially if we are talking about personal branding, about consultants. There are 15 to 20 questions that all of us need to ask ourselves. Why I'm doing this? What's my place in the world, inside this business, inside this industry? And a lot of people don't do that. They skip that first step, which is the most important. But, you know, that's the hardest one. That's why they skip it. And that's the biggest mistake that they are making. Because then they are not, you know, authentic. They are not unique, and they are not being themselves. They act as somebody else because, you know, usually it should be harder to act like anybody else. But, you know, in this world, it looks like, oh, I love this guy. That's how he's posting. I love the personal brand. So let me do the same. It will give me the same results. Well, it won't.
I'm actually laughing because I totally resonate and I hear you, because it's so true. And I always think it's so wonderful when you can kind of take a step back, you know, and you start realizing that, especially as a business or even as an agency, when you start reflecting and understanding your client base and exactly who you're speaking to, you were talking about client success stories. I mean, that's a wonderful way to sort of like organically and authentically bring out that information. So it just makes it so much more powerful. So why would you want to be anyone else, you know, than yourself, than your brand,
Exactly.
than your agency? Yeah, exactly. Now, Nemanja, you've worked with a variety of clients, from like local businesses to international brands. What do you think is the biggest mistake that consulting professionals actually make when trying to grow their LinkedIn presence? And what should they do differently? Now, you touched a little bit on almost like, in a way, strategically looking at you know, your brand or your agency and kind of dissecting that and then writing that down, as you mentioned earlier. But what would you say, you know, they should do differently? Yeah. What is your take on that?
Well, the first thing is always something when you think about LinkedIn, you think about that, you know, like me. It's always talking about themselves and you know, not involving others inside their content, not co-creating content with their target audience, with their clients, with peers, you know, those kind of things, not creating kind of like the ecosystem. And the thing we mentioned, like LinkedIn's mission, right? They don't think about it. So it becomes the echo chamber. So that's always one thing, and I think the most important thing And actually, that's what's working good these days on LinkedIn, right? Co-creating content is buzzing all around, and the algorithm research, the last one, told us exactly that. And then the other thing is, I think something that we already mentioned, it's not engaging, right? Because usually people go and they schedule posts and they don't engage. They just look at, but actually what boosts the visibility of the post is your engagement. Actually commenting on other people's posts, giving value through the comments, right? Because it doesn't mean always being positive. It means I'm looking at this post and I'm like for 20 years in the industry and I'm writing a comment saying, look, I appreciate your perspective, but being in the industry for 20 years, this doesn't make any sense. This is just not how it is, right? And then giving the way things are. So criticizing with a feedback. And that's always a good thing. So you are not just a hater going down and, hating everybody, but giving also something that will help them be better, right? So those kind of things. Also, I think what a lot of people don't do that is turning on a video. I know it's not for everybody, but that's just what works on a platform, right? And you need to adjust your efforts and the content that you're creating to the platform. Vertical videos work. Okay, let's do them. I always say to the people, they say, oh, okay, selfies works. I don't like selfies and those kind of things. Cry and make selfies because that's what works.
Totally. I think it's just wonderful how you sort of like the way that you are describing it, and you're just touching on so many relevant points. You're just making me giggle a little bit here because I'm just loving everything that you're speaking about at the moment. Now, as LinkedIn continues to evolve, what features do you think B2B consultants should prioritize in 2025 to stay ahead of the curve and build stronger relationships with prospects?
Yeah, we mentioned video, so we're not going to talk about it again, but try vertical videos. That's one. Another thing is, as we are moving more and more into the AI world, right? Everybody uses AI on LinkedIn. It's everywhere, in the comments, in the posts, everywhere, which means everybody will be vanilla, right? Generic. And what you can do to get out of all that is going live as much as possible. Meaning audio live events, they are great because they cannot be recorded yet. And the good thing is, as they cannot be recorded, you can, a lot of people can openly speak about anything. They just need to turn on through their messages on the phone, whatever it is, and they are in. Two people are speaking and you can invite other people to speak, but most people are just listening. So you invite somebody or you just speak to it, and however, because it's nice, especially in the morning, to listen to something like radio, right? On the other hand, live streams on LinkedIn, extremely a good thing. I just finished one with VP of Enterprise of Wix. And it's nice because they give you the authority, your guests. People can see if you are, it's the same like vertical videos, right? People can see if you are, if you know what you're talking about, if you're confident, do you have an accent, all these kind of things. Again, it creates trust. And it stays over there for a while. People can go to your events and look at the previous LinkedIn lives. So those are kind of the things. Also, what a lot of people don't use are the polls, right? They used to buzz everywhere. We used to all, roll our eyes when I see another poll in the feed. But let me give you and everybody listening a way to use them to kind of get more sales and differentiate. Meaning, I always say you have a problem and you have, let's say, 3 ways to solve it, right? You write 3 articles that actually explains how you solve the specific problems in 3 different ways. So you create a poll. You ask people, do you have this problem? And then you say, okay, there are 3 solutions, meaning you give them exactly, tell me what is the biggest obstacle to solving this problem. And so they vote. And you give them, like, the 4th option is always to say something in the comments, but you can see exactly who voted what. After that, you just DM them with the link. to the article. Hey man, I saw that you voted for this, wrote this article to explain how we are solving exactly this problem. I think you want to listen to that. Or I can send them the podcast episode or whatever it is. So they can not ignore you because they know that you can see that they voted, right? And if you're not selling them, if you're getting them to the next step, which is something to read, something to listen, it's actually a good way to start engaging in the conversation that will lead them in time to the moment you can actually sell them.
So you've provided quite a bit of insight now regarding polls, and it's very interesting because, one does kind of, skip it by. But now I see that there is actually a very important relevance, looking at polls itself, and then just also drawing in more the authentic engagement that brands and agencies are looking for. So say, for example, you have obviously, I would assume, like a client, campaign or anything like that. That's actually a great way to then bring in that authentic engagement as well by just going live, instead of having everything being too polished, Yeah.
Exactly. That thing you said, like without things being polished, it's exactly what we should go for, especially with AI, with a lot of people, a lot of noise. There are tons of consultants. If you want to differentiate, you need to go back to yourself and get back with something unique.
So true. Thank you. Now, I just want us to move a little bit away from the polls themselves and then start focusing more on your LinkedIn ads. Now, 33% of users report increased purchase intent after seeing a brand's message. So how would you say consultants can effectively use LinkedIn ads to target decision makers and then also try and attract high-profile clients or high-value clients, rather? Yeah.
There's an option. I think it's the newest one. I think there are no newest option when it comes to LinkedIn ads. It's total leadership ads, right? It's basically gives us a chance to boost a person's profile. A few months ago, you couldn't even see that it's a boosted post. Now you can see it. It's a small under your name, but you can actually see it. What does it do? It actually makes ads more human. And it means, I can write a post, talk about specific topics, name the results, name the companies I work with, or record the video and then, engage with people, get the organic reach, and then add that post to the thought leadership ads. Basically, it gives me a chance to kind of, as a thought leader, as a creator, as a consultant, to stand out. Right, and target specifically the customers that I want to target, so they read, watch whatever it is that I'm posting, and in that way you kind of are making sure that they are consuming your content. You're not just posting and then guessing what will happen or praying that something happens, but you actually target specific audience. So when it comes to the ads overall, LinkedIn is full of them. If we scroll to the feed, we will see a lot of them. And there's a mistake smaller companies and consultants are making, and it is related to the visual side of it, right? So they usually say, who are we targeting? We are targeting, enterprise style companies. So they are already dominating the market. When you are dominating the market, when you are the leader, you go with a blue color, right? It says that, you can trust the company, and in that way, it's safe, kind of, right? And if you're a challenger brand or a consultant, you want to go with something else, but they make a mistake. So they don't do like thought leadership ads, awareness ads. They just say, okay, they look at the stat that you just said, and they say, okay, LinkedIn is for lead gen. I'm going to turn on lead gen ads and write an ebook and run an ads to my target audience so they download the ebook, and I will try to pitch them my services after that. And they make a mistake of going with a blue color, right? And obviously companies are not ready to convert yet. Usually there's a time period, how much consultant works with a company, or they have anybody inside the company, or they are not aware of the problem. However it is, you don't buy that often in B2B. So basically they won't buy now, but when the time comes for that company who consume the content to buy, they will go to Google and they will look for a blue color, right? And they will actually convert to the market leader, not through you. So you're basically creating customers for your competitors and you are not even aware of it. Also, another thing that a lot of people are not mentioning is, and you mentioned it earlier, meaning having something that is not purely polished. Memes works excellent when it comes to the ads because you can explain complex problems in a very simplistic way and actually make somebody also laugh. So that's great when it comes to organic content. That's also great for the engagement. So not in the awareness phase, but in the engagement phase, because you first want people to consume your content and then you want to see if the right people are reacting to it. And then you go with the memes in the middle of the funnel. So that's something to go to. And then when it comes to the bottom of the funnel, of course, you go with purely sales ads, so lead gen, those ones that a lot of companies skip steps and then they do it firstly, right? One thing that we mentioned also, try to have success stories, testimonials, and if you can have them in a way that they are also entertaining through the videos and all kind of different stuff, I think we need to inherit that from B2C. Then, people will also consume them. And basically that's it.
So true, 100%. And Nemanja, in your journey from activism to B2B marketing, you've clearly developed a knack for building communities. So how can consulting teams foster a sense of community on LinkedIn? And why is this approach so crucial for client acquisition? I know you touched on some of the things that you mentioned just in terms of now with LinkedIn ads itself, but in terms of like an organic community reach, how would you approach that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I will give you first what are people saying when they convert through my website, right? I ask them, how did you hear about me? And why do you want to work with me? A lot of people say Nemanja jumps out of Pate on LinkedIn, right? Because they consume so much content. Others say, your perspective on the industry is totally different from what I'm seeing in industrial space and I want to work with it. So two things. I'm always in the feed, and another thing is I'm differentiating in the way that I want my audience to see me. So from that perspective, I have two things. We mentioned clarity and authenticity and being persistent over there. And then what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to create spaces for people to communicate with me and with each other and kind of creating the advocates, right, for me and for whatever it is. So in B2B, especially in consulting business, you will get the most of the business from people who recommend you, which means that you need to be connected with your peers. You need to help them get better, share with them things that you did well and all those things. But the most important thing, I think, is storytelling, right? What would somebody follow you? What they would engage with you? Because you have a story to tell. And let me give you an example. It's going to be a short story. So my company is named Funky Marketing for a single reason, because funk definition is the groove that makes you want to move, right? So, and I like to say that, that's that middle of the funnel, memes that we mentioned, those kind of things, because people forget that they go either educate until they die or sell. They forget the middle, and this is where the most of the things are happening, because we are humans and we like to engage with each other. We spend most of our working days engaging with our peers instead of doing the job. More time we are spending engaging than actually doing the job, right? And we forget that. So that's important thing to know. And when I think about how my company should be called, I thought of, when I'm entering the stage or the LinkedIn or whatever it is, how I want people to perceive me, right? And there's a situation, I don't know what was the year, but Marvin Gaye was singing the national anthem in an NBA All-Star game. He was left alone by everybody else, fighting with depression, with drugs, with all kind of things. He wasn't even the first choice. It was Lionel Richie, but they only knew hello, right? So they say, no, we're still going to go with Marvin Gaye. They didn't know if he's going to show up. But when the time comes, the melody starts, and it's the melody that sounds like Let's Get It On, right? So the guy who played it say, oh, did I just fuck it up or no? And he came in, he was looking like a swagger, wearing even the glasses with the stamp in reverse. I don't know, he didn't notice or he didn't care, whatever it is. And he just started to sing. The crowd was first, what's happening with this melody? We should hear the national anthem. And then he actually started to sing the national anthem. The players, everybody said we were stuck because it was legendary. It was the melody, it was the American, it was the hood at the same time. And, then they all started clapping and those kind of things. And one thing that if you go and look for that melody now on YouTube, you will find at least one clip when in comments they say that is the first and the last time somebody made love by listening to the national anthem. So that's how I imagine funky marketing to look like, and me when I entered the room, right? Somebody who is, coming from Serbia and going into the US market, obviously somebody who is underestimated by everybody, and I came and I over-delivered. So that's how I wanted people to remember me.
Interesting story. Thank you so much for sharing. And I guess you're a bit of an underdog, hey?
Always, yeah.
And now look, yeah. Nemanja, as someone who has consistently grown their own LinkedIn presence, what content types do you find works best for consultants? Should they focus on, you actually mentioned this earlier, educational posts, case studies, client success stories, or do you think it's actually a mix of everything? Because we kind of touched on the client success stories, we kind of touched on educational posts, and from what I'm deducting from everything that you've been mentioning is that it actually is a mix of everything. You kind of got to draw those elements out, right?
It is, yeah. You are totally right. I was talking with a LinkedIn support a few years ago, and they told me one thing that we always forget, because like marketers doing everything, and what works we tend to keep doing it until it stops working. So the thing is, we lull into doing the same things. Like text posts worked, now we're gonna do only text posts. Videos work, we're gonna do only videos. Those kind. But the thing is that you don't want to bore your audience, because if they get used to seeing you in the feed and reacting to the same old, like Nemanja is posting only text and I see it, and then every post remains the same basically, and I stop reacting. When you stop reacting to one or two posts, basically LinkedIn says, okay, you consume enough, I'm gonna try to show it to other people. And then that person, if they don't re-engage with you, they may never see your post in the feed again. So there are a couple of things that I want people to remember instead of types of posts. What those posts should contain. There is 4 things. So post a fire starter, meaning have a bold stance about something that's important to you, especially important to your client. Number 2 is go against the grain. I mentioned like 10% of my audience should disagree with me. Number 3 is be convinced in my belief by staying in my lane, meaning, I would sometimes be stubborn and discuss with people. That's totally okay, because discussion gets you to the goal. And number 4 is, do expiringly, do different things and try to change it, right? Involve video, then tomorrow involve text post, then go with a poll, then start LinkedIn Live. Do different things, because you don't want to be boring to people. That's the most important thing and the worst thing to do, to be boring, right? Because you want to be interesting and always bring something with a fresh perspective. Because to create trust, you need to repeat the same message over and over again. You're solving the same problem. So if you're doing it the same way, you will first bore yourself. Right, and I said, okay, what can I post? I posted about this in a million different ways, but if you try to do it differently, then you go and you do it differently. Sometimes with video, sometimes you will share something from the podcast, sometimes it's going to be a carousel or a PDF of your presentation, sometimes it's going to be the photo with people on a conference you were, those kind of things. And then you always bring something new to the table, because if you post at least 3 times a week, people who react to your post will see you every time they enter their feed. It works like retargeting, like advertising. And if it's always the same type of post, if you're always saying the same thing the same way, nothing will happen.
That's very true, hey? Nemanja, LinkedIn's algorithm, favors content that fosters meaningful engagement, and we've been touching on that a lot in this conversation. What would you say are some strategies that consultants can actually use to boost engagement with their posts? This is especially when targeting, high-level decision makers who might not always interact with standard posts.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic, because the way I'm seeing it, first what you need to do, and the way I'm doing it, you set a connection request, right? I don't like to send a message within the connection request, so I usually send it blank, because I post a lot, so they can see that I'm posting and what I'm all about. If you're not posting regularly, then write something within the message, and don't let it be like a sales message or speech slap or those kind of things. So when I connect with people, I usually give them at least 2 weeks to consume my content, because I'm posting regularly and I know they will consume the content. I know that the content is quality one, so they will see the value in it. And at the same time, let's guess that they are posting as well. So I'm trying to engage with them on their posts to give them additional value, right? So they can remember me. And in 2 weeks or a month, then I'm sending them a message just to say hi, right? I want them just to say hi, and I usually there is a message that I'm using, and it took me like 3 years to get there, to figure out one sentence, but now I'm going to tell it to the people so they can use it. And I'm usually saying, hey, just wanted to drop a message and say hi. But there's another thing that I involve, and it is the sentence that say, if I can be of help, everything is on my profile. So I'm basically directing them to go to check out my profile. And when they go to my profile, we already mentioned that the profile is your landing page, your sales page. So when they come to your profile, they should see like the cover should go in line with your profile photo and with your headline and say what you're all about. Then in the features section, you will have links for somebody to schedule a post, go to the podcast, whatever it is, the big ask that you want them to do. Then you need to have recommendations, which are also a huge boost when it comes to the trust. A lot of people forget that. That's also another way of engaging with the C-level and those kind of things. Like, write a recommendation to somebody. Say, hey man, I've been following you for a while, or name and the surname, and you helped me a lot even if you don't know it. Right? I've been listening to your episode of the podcast, reading your articles, following what you guys are doing in that and that company, and it helped me a lot. And then they will notice it, right? Because they will get the notification that you actually gave them a review. And and it started by you telling them that they help you a lot. So the trust is already there, right? Those kind of things, and people often forget about those. So small things. I mentioned engagement, and we talk about commenting, posting, those kind of things, but engagement is also in the inbox. And it's the same. If we engage with people in the inbox, we will see more of their posts, because LinkedIn will show it to us and our post to them, because it wants us to keep working together, keep the conversation going, keep the engagement going, because it wants something to happen. Right, and that's something that we always need to think of. I always say, when you look at the platform, no matter if it's advertising or organic posts or whatever it is, you need to know what's the big goal, the end goal. Do you want to close the customers? Do you want to schedule a call? Those are different outcomes that you want to get out of it. Do you want them to just get to the next step, meaning read the article or watch the podcast episode or just follow you? You need to know what's the end goal, and then you need to know what's the next step that customers can take. Because if you try to get them to go too far and they are not ready, that's done. You are out of the equation. So that's something to think about. The way people should think about social, about YouTube, about all those platforms when people are spending time, you need to create, how do we call it? Trust in hearts and minds of the people. So when the time comes for them to buy, and it usually comes, they create a list of 3 to 5 consultants, companies, however it is, you need to be on that list. Or even better, you need, if they think of you first, they won't even create the list. So you need to think about all those things, because like, okay, we've been solving this problem for like 3 years, and now I have the budget. Now it's the time for me to go to the next cell to solve the problem. Who is the first person I'm thinking of? Do I know somebody? And then, okay, I've been following this guy on LinkedIn for 2 years. Now it's the time that I send him a message. And when they go to the inbox to send you a message, they see that they didn't respond to the welcome message that you sent them, right? And then they feel the guilt. So you are now ahead of them, and you can then start taking the conversation in your own way.
Love that. Nemanja, many B2B consultants are still figuring out how to integrate, LinkedIn with their overall marketing strategy. And you were just touching on YouTube and chatting a bit about, those platforms outside of LinkedIn. So from your experience, how do you think LinkedIn should be incorporated into sort of a broader digital marketing plan? And how can consultants actually track their LinkedIn efforts to ensure they're driving measurable results? Because you were talking about the inbox and going via that route, but just in terms of that sort of broader digital marketing plan, you would then be incorporating a couple of elements as well. And LinkedIn itself can be quite isolated, as a platform on its own, if you just look at how the other platforms, are and the type of content they sort of spew out, so to speak. Yeah,
it's a little bit different because it's B2B platform and people talk about spend time and talk about business, right? When you compare it to the Instagram, to TikTok, to other platforms, people here talk about business. And, everybody's there. It's a necessity to be there if you have a name in business, no matter if you're posting, but you are there. So I like to use it as like a central hub for thought leadership in a broader marketing plan. So if you're a consultant, usually you don't do many things, right? You go where your customers are. And if they're on LinkedIn, you go on LinkedIn. And that's what you should do over there. So over there, you need to kind of first create the awareness, be visible, so people see that you exist. Then the second step is always the engagement. When you have something to say and it gets along with you engaging with them and all those kind of things, and then go to the lead gen or digital sales, as we call it today. What's important is that we track the right things at the right time. Usually that's a mistake companies are making, and us as consultants is we try to measure how many clients we close, right? But we cannot close like 10 clients in a month. That's not happening. Maybe we can schedule 10 calls, right? So, but usually what's happening is there's a great GIF when the guy is looking through the window and only the curtains are moving and he's standing still, and that's how it goes for months for consultants, right? Because you are posting content over there and you are waiting for something to happen, right? That's the gift that I'm sending to my wife when she asks me, what did you do today? Right? So that's how it goes. The thing is, what I wanted to say, the thing is, on LinkedIn, first you need to see who are the people reacting to your posts. Are those the right people? Who is engaging? Are those the right people? Is that your target audience? Then when it comes to your profile, who is coming to visit your profile? When you post something, did it take people from your post to your profile? Are those the right people? Because when they come to your profile, you can easily see, okay, those are the fit, those are not. I can send them a message right away and say, hey, you were on my profile, how can I help you? And usually people don't notice that you can see all of that. Like if they spend 20 seconds on your profile, you can see, in the section who view your profile. And you just send them a message, hey man, what's going on? Those kind of things. And then what's important is when they are coming to your website and converting, what are they saying? I mentioned 2 questions. How did you hear about me? Or why do you want to work with me? Did they mention specific posts? Did they mention LinkedIn at all? Because if they are saying, I'm coming to you because you are, because of your reputation in the industry, it's bullshit. It means that they found you on Google, right? And if they say that they found you on Google, it's just your website and it's the basic SEO. You're not doing anything and your marketing is not working. So that's something to remember, because that's the quality insights that you will get. What's actually happening? Because in Google Analytics and in the CRM, you can see, for example, that somebody's coming from LinkedIn, from Slack, from YouTube, from Google, whatever it is. And analytics is always pointing things out at the last conversion, meaning last step. So like it's usually organic search or search or Google or however it is. The thing is, you don't know what's happened on that platform, right? So you just know LinkedIn. Okay, but what happened out there? Which video? Which post? What did I do? What did somebody else do? Did somebody mention me? Did somebody refer me? But if you add to that form, we call it self-reported attribution form on your website, that actually gives you the hint what's going on. Did somebody recommend you? Did they come through specific post? For example, I had a situation when for like 2 weeks, I was talking about specific go-to-market strategies that I'm doing. And after that, I started getting people coming to the website and converting, scheduling a call, using exactly the words that I was using and saying that they want to implement the same strategy. So that's how you track that what you are doing actually is working. And then there is also one thing, if you are actually starting to build a brand and it's happening, it takes a lot to get there. I was lucky to get there in 2 years for some reason. I don't know. LinkedIn was crazy at the time. Reach was huge in 2020. We closed 47 clients in a year over LinkedIn, all organic and everything. And I wasn't a consultant. I started to build an agency. But the thing was, I started to see in Google Search Console what people were typing to get them to the website through Google, right? They started typing Nemanja Živković LinkedIn. And it means that they actually went from LinkedIn to Google, typing Nemanja Živković LinkedIn, found the Funky Marketing website, came and converted. So that actually means that you actually built a personal brand.
Amazing. Amazing. Nemanja, that's it for now. That was my final question. I just want to say that it was so lovely chatting with you here on the DesignRush podcast. You provided such valuable insight, but what I especially loved about our conversation is that you are so powerful and so passionate in what you do. And that is so evident when you start, speaking about everything and going into detail. I think passion is also just such an important part of authenticity and authentic speak and just being organic, in a world that can be a little bit too polished sometimes. So thank you so much for joining us today.
It is, yeah. Thanks a lot. I don't know if my wife would agree with you. Those are bad things for her, especially having in mind that whenever we go to a vacation, that would be interesting for the end to make us both laugh. Like Cyprus, Berlin, Barcelona. Somebody meets me at the center of the city, even in Cyprus, and say, "Hey, are you Nemanja from LinkedIn?" And my wife says, "Again, we are on vacation."
Maybe you must get her LinkedIn profile and get her moving on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, imagine she doesn't have a LinkedIn profile because in 2024 she still works in a company that if somebody has a LinkedIn profile, they think that they are on to another job.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, controversy all around us.
Oh my goodness. Well, tell your wife I said hi and tell her thank you so much for loaning your time to us and lending you to us. We really do appreciate it. and you must definitely enjoy the rest of your time. And we really hope to see you back soon on the DesignRush podcast. We'd love to unpack some more questions and just get stuck into things again.
Love it. And thank you. You were a great host, and I really enjoyed sharing all the things.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Curious about what our brands look for in choosing an agency? Tune into our latest episodes where we reveal the decision-making secrets of leading brands. Subscribe to the DesignRush podcast and stay ahead of the competition.